That's it for me.
All right, Meta, what's your topic?
Well, my topic is definitely not about magic, but it could be, depending on what you answer it with. But I feel like we need to talk about something very important today, so I need you to sit down, put on your serious face, and work with me on this. I was perusing through some stuff, and I was kind of thinking about, topics we could do today. And, you know what I kind of miss is that there's a lot of, as time goes on, things change, obviously, and then we go through different phases in anything, whether it be card games, whether it be movies, gaming, anything in the entertainment industry is often very, very often changing and going through new ideas or concepts with the passing of years. And sometimes that means that things that were popular back then very quickly fade out for new concepts, or at least what's considered to be popular now. And I was thinking, in both gaming and movies specifically, but just in any place, we have a lot of different genres. We have a lot of different things we can watch. There's a lot of different themes and ideas: action, role play, horror, etc., etc. But obviously, some things kind of fade in and out with time. And I was kind of thinking to myself, you know what I miss? I miss some of the older genres that we don't really see anymore, or genres that haven't really been touched on, either through, the Hollywood blockbuster and whatnot. And I wanted to know to you guys, is there a genre of a game or a movie or even books, literature that you'd like to see more of? Either to come back or something that could show up potentially in the future, because I certainly can think of a couple things that I would like to see. For instance, in my case, I would love to see turn-based tactical games come back. They are they are old. There are very few that come out nowadays.
You just don't play enough waifu games, Meta.
No, I'm not talking about waifu games.
Get on that Valkyria Chronicles, son.
You're I was thinking about that too, but those are really hybrids.
Yeah.
They're not full on tactical. They're not just like you have your units, you're moving them across the field, and this is what you do. There's a lot of times where a hybrid something where they might have first person events, or they'll have some quick time stuff in there. Generally,
So you want more Fire Emblem?
Well,
If it has Lyn in it.
I will never say no. I don't want more Fire Emblem, but I would like to see the genre more.
Yeah,
so than
we did
just a
see
specific
that one game at E3 where you could even build your own campaign.
Yes, there was those things. And then looking back at the history and whatnot, you've got a couple of games out there, but just in the 2010s, there was Shadowrun Returns, and then obviously you had the expansions that were the sequels of Dragonfall in Hong Kong, which came out in 2015, 2015. You had Blackguard, which was actually a tactical RPG in Germany, based on German, and it kind of has a pen and paper style setting. And there was a sequel that was for 2015. You also had Invisible Ink for the OS X, Windows and Linux, which again was kind of roguelike, as they say, although I would be careful with that. In 2016, there was Darkest Dungeon, which came out finally. Dankest Dungeon. And
Just came out with a expansion.
Yes, the Crimson something or other.
I love that game.
And then you have a game in 2017. The German indie developer Overhyped Studios released its tactical RPG Battle Brothers out of early access. But those are all those games are either sequels to a game that's already been done, and generally only a few of them out there, and that's just in the span of the 2010s so far. But in last year and the year before that, it's only been some of the better well-knowns that ones come out. 2014 saw 2 games. 2013 saw, I think, 1, and 2015 only saw 3.
We're getting the new mech game. It's turn-based tactical.
Yes, which I'm very, very excited for because it looks fun. But I would love to see more stuff. I would love to see games like Final Fantasy Tactics, not Advanced. Final Fantasy Tactics, the actual one, come out. I would like to see that.
I've played
again.
the advanced ones.
Nah, dead to me.
I like them.
I like the Game Boy one, all right.
Give me more snowball fights.
No.
The tactical version.
Yeah. That's what I'm talking about.
Snowball fights. That was the pinnacle fight in the whole game. I don't understand why they just didn't do that.
That was the tutorial.
I also I also kind of miss games like XCOM. I mean, you had XCOM 2 that came out a while ago.
Yeah.
Those are fun. Those are tactical games. But I don't. It's kind of a genre that is. You'll find good games in it. Don't get me wrong. You get good names in there, but there's not a lot of variety.
Yeah, no. Yeah. They're pretty. You don't get a whole lot. Luckily, a lot of the ones that do come out tend to be pretty good.
Yeah, which is always a blessing in and of itself. Because God forbid they stop being good. Yeah, exactly. But I don't know. I remember growing up playing a lot more of those kind of games, and now, like kind of taking a pretty big back step, and you don't see them as often.
I know what I'm going to go with.
What is it?
Well, Spider-Man reviews are coming out, talking about some of their people's favorite thing about the movie. And since I just this year played my new favorite video game of all time, I'm going to go with, I'd like to see...
No, don't say it.
Not high school necessarily, but more like day management kind of slice of life, in quotes, aspects to some video games.
You basically want more Persona.
No, I'd love more Persona, obviously, but...
Well, I mean, and that style,
Yeah.
but in other things. Because you also like the Cold Steel?
Yeah, Trails of Cold Steel, which is basically like
Yeah.
Persona as well, but a little different.
Yeah.
I think it would be cool to see like an action game where you did like the mission-y, like go out and do stuff, but then you have like your day management, maybe with like a hub world or something like that, or shooters even. Maybe they could do something with that. It's like something people haven't really experimented with outside of the realm of the JRPG, really. I'd like to see it like kind of go over to other places. It would just take someone smarter than me to be able to implement it, because I don't know how you would do it. But I'd like to see someone at least try, maybe. So that's, I guess, my answer.
Actually, I kind of agree with you, because I've seen a number of games that will put like day-night cycles, but you never really have to care. Like you'll be running around at midday, and then like you'll go home or something, or do like somewhere at some place, you'll pop out. It's the middle of the night. There's no reason to manage like what you're doing. You don't have to go to sleep or anything. There's not like you can only do certain things at certain times of day. You end up just kind of being able to do everything. So the day-night cycle really is just there to give a sense that the world is at least progressing on.
Yeah, you gotta find a way to integrate that into the gameplay like Persona does too.
Yeah.
That's like because it wouldn't be as good in Persona if it wasn't so closely tied to the gameplay.
Yeah.
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 I love me some Persona, but I don't know if I could handle more games like it.
It doesn't have to be another 160 hours, man.
Well, no, I feel like I don't love being restricted on my time.
Yeah,
Fair
I
enough.
was going to say, I think that's one of the reasons why we don't see it that much, being experimented with, is because a lot of people, I don't imagine the general populace sees it as a very good game mechanic.
Yeah, and you want to play it safe.
And to a degree, it can very easily, if not done right, come off as just adding features for features, adding gameplay for gameplay, and therefore being much more just dead weight.
Yeah, I think you really got
That's why you got tied in.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. It's all about that synergy.
Though with Persona's success, or Persona 5 being like the masterpiece that it is, hopefully
It's
it'll
no longer a niche game series anymore after Persona 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll see more.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be
What
cool.
about you guys?
I'll go with another video game. Because really Dark Souls has spawned off its own genre. So just give me more of that.
Just go play the
Soulsborne
the
games.
generic mech one where every environment's the same and all
That
the
was
enemies
so
are the
close. That
Mao.
one's like right there.
Mao, I can solve your whole problem. Are you ready for this? Plug in your Nintendo Entertainment System and then just buy any Nintendo game. There you go.
It's not the same.
Well, here's what Dark Souls does so great, and Neo did this as well to an extent. Everyone just wants to copy the gameplay itself and think that their game can stand alone on that. The environments and the enemies in Dark Souls are like super underrated, and they're a big part of why the games are so good. And it's that to me is like so tied with that formula that when I see stuff like is it Surge or what's the name of the game?
It was Surge.
When I see stuff
Surge.
like that and it's just so like milk toast, it just seems completely different and off base to me. So
You know what a big part of what also makes Dark Souls, or just in general the series, so fantastic, beyond obviously the difficulty and the learning curve for it and whatnot, the mystery. There is
I was gonna say
so
that.
much to learn, and I kid you not, this is just going to go into the understanding of like the human brain and whatnot. But the human brain doesn't generally like to leave like gaps. It likes to know an ending to something. And Dark Souls is full of information that only give you bits and pieces of a story. So a part of that,
But it
whole
gives you
addiction-
just enough where
Yeah.
you can fill it in with
Yeah.
your own information.
That amusingly is exactly how Miyazaki designed it.
Yeah, which is why it's such also an addictive thing for people to play, because you're not only playing a game that's fundamentally well designed, but everything about that game, there's so much to learn, so much to understand, always another bit of like flavor text to something that can completely change your perception on what exactly a part of the story of how it's explaining something to be. And even then, there's multiple ways you could take that information. There is no solid answer, and you'll never get one.
It's probably more of a subgenre. I do think it built upon the Metrovania style.
Yeah.
As like an ancestor sort of.
It definitely does. I mean, you go from section to section, unlocking areas, and then you eventually go back to areas that you can go into now because of some key item or whatever. I mean, that's Metrovania.
But it's different enough.
On a similar vein, just the immersive sims I've talked about before, like with Prey, more like that too. Just basically, I want more
story-driven games,
environmental storytelling. Really,
that was actually something I was very disappointed by with Neo. I was very disappointed that the overarching story eventually just took over everything. I love the first level of Neo simply because there's all these people dead, and as you pick up their souls and whatnot, you get to hear kind of them talking and saying things and running, and there's a lot of panic and chaos for them, their own final thoughts before they die. But eventually you get the story is exactly how these bandits got onto this island, how they were all let in, and what happened, and then you eventually see foreigner bodies that are on the ground, and it turns out that they were all part of a slave trade thing, and that they tricked the villagers into letting them in before they could do anything to do it. They were rushing and taking over and whatnot. And I like that. But the levels after that don't do that. And I was really disappointed because I really wanted to learn about the stages in the world just as much as the overarching story.
Yeah, the level design was probably the weakest part of Neo for me too. But hopefully they'll have a sequel and they can spend more time and love.
I think it will get a sequel for sure. So
I definitely it took off incredibly well. I mean, barring that, the game is bloody fun.
What about you, Ted? What's yours?
Well, I was trying really, really, really hard to not say more mecha games because everybody knows I want more Armored Core.
Swear to God, man.
So, after a while of thinking on it, I finally came to tactical.
If you say mecha movies, okay.
No. Tactical games. Like what Meta talked about is exactly what I want to see more.
Well, then there you go. Get Mech Warrior when it comes out, and you're going to be completely covered.
Honestly,
all your bases.
Best of both worlds.
That's the best of both worlds.
Honestly, Mech Warrior, and then did any of y'all play the old? I think it was called Front Mission games.
Yes. Oh my God.
Stuff like that. I want to see more of.
That's SqaureEnix.
Those games are so fun.
Well, I think ultimately what it is for me with tactics, and I know Meta listed a few that were not gonna fall under this header, but I feel like too many, or at least most of the big name ones, are just fantasy based. And I'm okay with fantasy, but to be honest, I want to see more sci-fi stuff, and I'd love to see a really well done sci-fi tactics game of any type, whether it's mecha,
that's
tanks,
XCOM.
Well, yeah, it is XCOM, but
It's the same thing for me as like Fire Emblem.
But it's
it's the same thing for Tets as it is for me with Fire Emblem. Fire Emblem is a fantastic turn-based one, but it's not the one I want.
Exactly. Well, it's that. But then, even though it is sci-fi, it doesn't feel. Whenever, at least for me, whenever I think of the tactics genre, I always think of fantasy-based stuff, and so I guess I just want to see more sci-fi. I want to see other avenues discovered because, yeah, it's about fighting off aliens and stuff. But a lot of your backbone to sci-fi isn't necessarily that. It's these other problems with society. You know, how do you deal with these things? You know, technological advances. How does Android play into a blah 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 blah? But I'd love to see all that kind of explored as well into a tactics game, I guess.
Yeah, you know, I do want to say this though. Like, if I had not chosen that one, I wanted to just give a quick honorable mention on this, and I blame this not because I've been definitely reading a lot more on H.P. Lovecraft stuff, but I would love to see some horror movies come out in just in the genre, dealing more into cosmic horror and
we don't get enough of that.
Lovecraftian style. It's almost non-existent, and of the stuff there is, it's horrifically bad.
And not just movies,
I
but
think
even games
that's released anytime, like lately.
The problem, I can tell you,
there was a couple.
The problem is that like
I can't think of any like blockbuster ones.
Yeah, no, not
blockbuster.
blockbuster. There's definitely not blockbuster ones. The problem with when I kind of defeat myself here is the reason as to why is that it's really hard to do that because that kind of horror is less about like some bestial creature, some curse or something on land with like a haunting ghost or something, and it's more about abstract like things that are going on that shatter any sense of realism.
Okay, guys,
to what
I gotta stop you right there, man,
when
because this is what's gonna happen. You gotta better be careful what you wish for here. You're gonna end up getting
don't do this to
the
me.
Cthulhu version of the Death Note on Netflix, where
No.
Cthulhu shows up. He's got a backwards ball cap. I just get bullied all the time, man. People don't understand me. I gotta make you go insane, bro.
No, please
Well, I mean,
do that.
Honestly, ultimately, what I think it is in that regard is that horror movies have this really hard time not being jump scare
Oh my
or
god, yes.
gore fest. And when you have something like, I mean, like as you said, the whole thing about Lovecraftian horrors is if you set your eyes on it, you will go insane. How do you convey that through a media that is supposed to be consumed by setting your eyes
The
on
Witch
it?
Exactly.
Did it. That's the
Yeah.
best horror movie I've seen in years, easily, because it doesn't really show you what is so scary. When I think of what could make a good Lovecraftian movie, all the horror would have to come from the atmosphere of the movie.
Yes, that's exactly.
Yeah, oh,
like if you read any of Lovecraft's stuff, you can tell a lot of times the stories aren't about like these large groups of people or these catastrophic events or some mass murder and killing. They're about watching somebody fight something that they cannot defeat, and ultimately you're kind of just on that ride for them, watching as they slowly plummet downwards into a spiral of madness and insanity that they can't come out of. That's not really visual.
Well, I mean, like, so one thing that I've recently gotten my hands on, this like compilation of all of Lovecraft's work, and I usually read through about a story a night before going to bed, which sounds like an amazing idea, but it's not. But I was trying to explain to my wife why I was really, really enjoying it and why Lovecraft is just this. He really is a great author, and it's not. It's hard to describe if you don't read the books, but there's one story, and I'm blanking on the name of it now, and to draw it back to where we were going with this, the story is a basic zombie story. These college age, well, you know, they're professors at this university, and they're
I know exactly what you're talking about.
yeah, they're just exploring what it takes to, you know, preserve life, and they accidentally create this zombie, and they create like 3 or 4, and like the end of it is just the zombies come, and the guy who created them, they tear them apart and go away.
Spoilers.
And it's
Yeah.
yeah. If I have to give spoiler alerts for a book that was written in 1920,
I know. But yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. It's the it's the one individual, the 2 doctors. One is just kind of along for the ride, but the other guy, he keeps wanting to learn how to bring human life back from the brink, and he keeps getting closer and closer. But eventually, what he creates isn't fully human, and every time he gets closer and closer, eventually they come around and they end up just ripping him apart, and there's no sense or reason for it. But they apparently don't like.
What's terrifying about it is it's not the subject. I mean, again, we're currently at a point in a society where zombies are zombies. Like, oh no, it's zombies.
Yeah.
But I legitimately was getting chills when I was reading the story because it's the way he lays the atmosphere, the way it's like he really can put you in that position. And so to see that done in a movie is really, really difficult because we consume movies a lot of times by watching as outside entities, and to make yourself be inserted into the character, I think, is a fundamental part of what it would need to have. That's just hard to do with movies.
There's definitely been psychological thrillers, which is probably what will fall best into for what Lovecraft horror is. But I would still like to see somebody take a shot at it because I think it's
absolutely.
I guess I shouldn't say take a shot at it. I want somebody to take a good shot at it, not, like, well, let's just try it, see what happens.
I hope so too, because it's going to be hard for movie companies to do that. They want to play it safe and do what's going to for sure make the money, so they're just going to make, Paranormal Activity 23 or whatever instead. So,
I can't. I can say this: if you've played, because we actually made mention of it here when we were talking about the tactical RPGs. If you've played Darkest Dungeon, you probably know the opening character, the Ancestor, who is voice acted by a man by the name of Wayne Jude. He has actually done readings of some of Lovecraft's stories, and you can find him on YouTube. I would highly recommend to anybody listening on the podcast, if you were looking for something creepy and bone chilling and just very fun to listen to, look up Wayne Jude, The Thing at the Door, and it's an audiobook. It's about an hour long. You just have to listen to it. It's bloody fantastic. And in his voice I tell you right now, his voice is like the perfect reader for this kind of story telling. It's absolutely wonderful.
Yep. The story, by the way, that we were thinking of, meta, is Herbert West Reanimator.
Yes. Yep.
As far as like sort of fear from the unknown, The Jaunt by Stephen King is a really good short story.
Yeah, King has some good stuff too.
I recommend it.
Well, I know King was heavily influenced by Lovecraft as well. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's some genres we definitely don't really see a lot.
I'm actually kind of hoping that the new It movie does well, because the new It movie has
it's very Lovecraftian.
Yeah, it's very Lovecraftian on what it's linked to.
I'm just afraid it's going to be jump scare city.
Yeah, and that's what I don't want.
Something else that did the cosmic horror really good was Bloodborne.
Yep.
Yes.
But
it's true.
I think
Bloodborne was fantastic.
Yeah.
Give us more.
Part of that
software.
though is because they're advertising. When it first came out, everyone went into it thinking it was going to be about hunting werewolves, basically.
Yeah.
They didn't show any of the cosmic horror stuff, and
Boom.
it just
And it hits you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was great.
that game
So,
was fantastic for
like-
that.
And then another so doing that with a movie is hard because trailers these days especially that's a
show
whole other
everything.
topic.
Yeah.
They show everything.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, I mean, think about the quote-unquote failure that was Cloverfield, because, we didn't know what it was going to be walking into the movie with all the media, and a bunch of people hated that. So there's not a lot of people that want to take that risk.
Well, I also know there were some other issues, like the shaky cam was a big
yeah.
thing for
I
them.
do
barring-
think that
barring
it's
some of the
probably
other
a
stuff.
decent attempt at trying to put you in.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I thought it was
Agreed.
all right.
Agreed.
Cloverfield was probably the best attempt at that, or really, or that I can think on a blockbuster level.
Agreed.
Agreed. Yeah, it was a very
would agree
solid
with that.
attempt. There were certainly failures on it, but I mean, the concept was fantastic, and the trailer did a good job in saying you are never gonna know what this thing is, so you're gonna have to go see the movie if you ever even want a chance to see it.
And then people wanted to know in sequels, and it frustrated them.
Yeah, the sequel's
Yeah.
less good.
Yeah.